Commissioners, next on the agenda is item 2.09, discussion conservation easement options for county-owned property near the Maryland Airport. And
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, want me to go ahead and lead
Yes,
it?
please.
Yes, okay. So, the purpose of having this on the agenda today is because it was brought to my attention that that there is some property that the county owns over what would be typically, I think, referred to in the Indian Head Tech Park area, that we have some property that we own there, and that may be of some value to the Conservancy of Charles County or the Maryland Environmental Trust. So the purpose of today was to just have a discussion here openly with the board and to see if there's any interest on the part of the board to direct staff to move forward and have a conversation with either or both the Conservancy for Charles County or the Maryland Environmental Trust to see if there is any value to those organizations in terms of perhaps putting that into a conservation easement, and to start that conversation. If, in fact, there is, then the staff would then come back to us with whatever findings they might have. If there isn't, they would bring that forward to us as well. But today is not about making any decisions as to whether or not that's what we're going to do. It's simply an opportunity for us to have a conversation about whether we as a board want to at least give the staff the opportunity to meet with these individuals and get their thoughts on whether there's any value to them. So that was why I wanted to bring it forward and start this process out openly and with opportunity for people to weigh in on that. So with that, if there are any discussion or questions or comments, happy to have them. Commissioner Robbins?
I would have a question for Mr. Rice, because you are our expert in this area. If we were to choose to add any of this land into conservation easements, does that go towards our overall policy of preservation, or is this in addition to?
It would be in addition to the preserved land, so it would be in addition to the goal that the commissioners have set to preserve at least 50% of the county in open space.
But it can be applied towards that?
Correct.
That's really my question.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner.
I have no desire to. I think we preserved enough land already.
Okay. All right.
If I may.
Mr. Davis? Mm-hmm.
As the commissioner from District 2, I'm vehemently opposed against it for more reasons than I care to outline. But probably the first one, and probably the most important one, is we are all aware of what happened with the whole Chapman's Landing fight and the commitment from this government and from the state to designate that land, as you refer to it as the tech park land, for employment, zoned employment. I don't remember what the rest of the zoning is. And that it was the commitment that we made to our citizens and to the state when we gave up Chapman's Landing, was to zone that. And to go back on that, I believe it's just I think it's disgraceful that we would make that deal and then go against it. The citizens fought long and hard for that to be zoned for employment, and goodness knows we need it in our county. Secondly, it could adversely affect Indian Head. It could add the development of Indian Head, the survival of Indian Head, the survival of the western county, the western side of the county. It could adversely affect any development at the airport or whew. So it is not good for Western County that we put this in any type of conservancy. We need some economic development on that side of the county, and we needed it yesterday. I just can't even believe we're having this conversation. The citizens on the Western County who want a grocery store, who want the same amenities that people in the rest of the county have, are not looking for more preservation. They're looking for economic development.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Robinson?
Thank you. I would just point out that the land in question was owned by an entity led by Fachina and COP for several years to market that land as a tech park. They were unsuccessful, and they are the experts. And then subsequently, the county had a study earmarked, commissioned, in which the results came back that that area was the wrong place and the wrong type of development. So I think we've been down the road of trying to market it in that way, unsuccessfully. I would also point out that in terms of the town of Indian Head, the land in question is located several miles from the town borders.
Okay. Any other comments? Yeah, I just want to make it clear, perhaps I wasn't clear enough. The purpose of today's discussion is not to take a vote on whether we're putting this into an easement at all. We don't know that yet. The purpose of today's discussion is to address something that we're often accused of, which I don't at all support, is, and I've heard this enough, a lack of transparency. We're actually doing quite the opposite here. We're starting this at the beginning of the process. We've been approached, or I've been made aware of this. So today's purpose is to simply decide if there's even an opportunity to give or not the opportunity of our staff to have a conversation. That's all. The concerns that are raised today, the issues that are raised today, if it goes forward, can be raised again. So it's premature for anybody to make assumptions and judgments about what the purpose of today, this agenda item is about. I don't think there's any harm at all, and I would look for the support of the Board of County Commissioners to have an open dialogue and an open discussion to see whether or not there's even any interest. If there isn't, that's fine. If there is, then we move forward from there. That's really all that's before us today. So with that, and hearing some of the comments, I'm going to ask, because it sounds like there may be some differences of opinion, I'm going to ask you, Madam Clerk, if you put that in the form of a motion, and that we'll take a voice vote on that as to whether or not we would direct staff to at least have a conversation with the two entities, there may be others, but the two I'm aware of, as to whether or not there's even any interest in a very particular piece of property. It's a property that is owned by the county, so that's very clear. We're not talking about any other property. As to whether or not there's any value to those organizations to pursue further conversation about perhaps a conservation easement. So, Madam Clerk, if you would put that in the form of a motion.
Do my best. Okay. Is there a motion to direct staff to discuss options for conservation of the county-owned property previously known as the Indian Head Tech Park? Is that correct?
I think it's most commonly known as that, or is it, unless you have a different description.
We understand what it is.
You understand?
What do you refer to that?
Indian Head Tech Park, the county-owned portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll try that again. Is there a motion to direct staff to discuss options for conserving the county-owned property known as the Indian Head Tech Park with the Conservancy for Charles County or the Maryland Environmental Trust to determine options for conservation?
Interest. I would say an interest.
Interest?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the motion is to direct staff to discuss with the Conservancy for Charles County or Maryland Environmental Trust their interest in options for conserving the county-owned property known as the Indian Head Tech Park.
Does that make it, is that very clear? Okay.
We understand.
Thank you very much. Okay.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second with a question.
There's a second. Commissioner Robinson.
Are those the only two entities that are available to us?
That's not the only two, but they're probably the best fit off the top of my head.
Okay. And obviously, if they come back with a no, then that's the end of this discussion. Thank you.
Well, unless the majority of you would like us to explore it further.
Okay. Thank you. We'll do that. Commissioner Davis?
Oh yeah, I'm injured in my seat here. Just because you say it's transparency doesn't make it transparent. If we were going to be transparent, we would have some real dialogue. The question we would have economic development sitting here also. So the real question should be whether we're going to have conservation or development there. But you've already narrowed the question down to conservancy, and now we're going to feign like we had some real darn dialogue here today, and that is so upsetting to me. That this is not dialogue. Get me economic development here, and the motion should be: can we figure out what we're going to do with that tech park? Not whether we're going to conserve it or not. And I'm not directing it to you. I'm directing it to my colleagues who have already made up their damn mind. But it's okay.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you would take a roll call, please.
Commissioner Robinson, District 1.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, District 3.
Yes.
Commissioner Rucci, District 4.
No.
Commissioner Davis, District 2.
No.
Commissioner President Murphy.
Yes.
The motion passes 3 votes to 2.
Thank you.
Anything else you guys already decided?
Next on the agenda, item 2.10, briefing and request for approval, standard operating procedures,